District breakdown time, 358 Division 1. I got my guy Diggs over there. He's the high school insider, and he has got some things to say about this district. Hey, remember last year when we talked about they put this district together and we're like, hey, 6 teams finished in first place last year. I don't know who's going to make the playoffs. And now, from what I read from you on Twitter, we don't know who's going to make the playoffs for another reason because they're all not as talented.
Like last year we had the senior class of all senior classes. Just about everybody outside of Alito graduated all of their top players. And you start to look at this district and really start to break it down. I was like, the very first thing I do when I go through these things is I kind of go look at the all district teams. I'm like, okay, who's coming back? Who's going to be players that we need to keep an eye on? And you kind of go dig into huddle and do some research. And you look at that all district list last year, and just about everybody on the first team and second team who wasn't from Alito were all seniors. And you start to see the names of everybody who graduated, Philip Hamilton and Anthony Hill. And all of a sudden you're like, Jake Strong, you're looking at all these players who have graduated and you're like, who's going to fill their shoes? And then you start looking at some of these JV teams, and it's like, it's going to be a lot of people's JV teams are coming up in complete totality. It is a mess in this district. Alito is probably, with this kind of a setup, really set, pretty much guaranteed a trip to the state semifinals. Now, will they get out of the state semifinals? I think I'll have some things to say about that as we break down Alito. But this district is not a strong district. And Ward, I asked you this in text messages, and I don't think you ever answered me, but did you know one player on Denton Ryan coming back? Like when I gave you that quiz, did you name one player from Denton Ryan?
I don't. I feel like I'm transferring to a new school. I'm meeting all new people. I don't really know.
I mean, this is the first time in a long time. We haven't had a Sanders or just an all world player coming back from Denton Ryan. Now they actually have a player named Braden Mussett, who is a sophomore, who's expected to be quarterback, who might be that player, but he hasn't proven it on the field yet. He's got to get in there and do something and create some stats and be maybe a next year bobblehead recipient. But he hasn't. You got to be the man. You got to beat the man. But to be the man, you got to get on the field and show what you can do. But Denton Ryan, for the first time in a long time, is not that guaranteed state finalist kind of a team that is a team that you expect to make it 3 or 4 rounds deep. I was there watching their playoff game last year where they unexpectedly collapsed to Red Oak. And I don't know that they're going to be better than they were last year. Now, maybe a lot of the chemistry gets, fixed with that graduating class being gone, and Coach Hennigan can finally breathe and not have to worry about resting on the laurels and players who are coming into the camp who are reading their own press clippings and 5-star this and 5-star that. Maybe he can just really coach and let his talent shine through. But Denton Ryan is not on paper this loaded team that we've expected over the last couple of years. And Burleson Centennial the same way. They were the team that usurped Denton Ryan last year, and 2 of their losses were both to Alito last year. Coach Kyle Geller is going to have to replace Philip Hamilton, who was their 3-year starting everything. Iverson Moore is expected to go from cornerback over to quarterback, and I hear that Burleson Centennial might be throwing it a little bit more. We'll have to find out how that triple option, if they're going to stick with that or kind of maybe modify that a little bit based on their talent. Burleson Centennial does return 7 or 8 defensive starters, so they do have that coming back for them. They also have Aiden Hicks, the really talented running back, coming back. But so much has graduated from Burleson Centennial, and that's going to be kind of a recurring theme. That I really like Burleson Centennial, but I don't know that they're going to be a better team than they were last year. And that stopped with Alito. So if they're not better than they were last year, and Alito is better than they were last year, how do you get past that? And at some point, it's got to be demoralizing for teams to have a team like Alito who returns almost absolutely everybody who helped lead them to their state championship. But one person that they do not return, and this is going to be a big X factor, Ward, and I'm very curious to see what you think about this, is finally after 20 years, the Buckwood coaching tree has finally disintegrated. Robbie Jones takes over a very talented Alito staff. Obviously, Coach Buck could not have left him with a better class of kids who have figured it out and grew under his leadership. Now he's got to do it on his own. And we've really seen over the last couple of years, first year new coaches have not always thrived. If you look at Denton Geyer last year, that's a really good example of that.
Yeah, the buck stops here, I guess, right? But you got to admit, I mean, you've got to agree, he's not moving out of that area, so he can always bend Buck's ear whenever he needs to. And like you said, he did not leave the cupboard dry. Heck, he left him a hoss. He left him at Hoss at quarterback right there, and he left him the keys to the defense with a little Devon Keys. Boy, I'm rolling today. Talk to me about who else he left him.
Well, they are inspired with the Pope. They got Caleb Pope coming back as well as HPD Hawk Patrick Daniels coming back as well, and a very, very talented player. We talked about it last week with the Locke kid. They got Kadon Finley, who is Jermichael Finley's son, who's going to be a special player. He did great things in a couple of games last year as a freshman. So now as a sophomore, I think they're going to be looking at him. He's going to probably be the next big thing coming out of Aledo, 5-star player. Haas Haney, I think recruited or was committed to TCU in the last few weeks. So that's obviously a talented player. You're going to have Jacob Gillespie, easy for you to say, coming back as well. And you talked about, and Tyson Timms, that really talented tight end, is going to be coming back. So Aledo has so much of their skill players and a percentage of their total offense last year coming back. They have to be the number one team in the area, number one team in the state going into things. But can they get by a team like Longview, or whoever gets out of Region 2 is going to be the thing, because there is always that X factor. And every time I can't remember the last time a new coach took over and won state title. Maybe your memory of that is better, but it is very rare for a team to have a first-year coach win a state championship.
That's a good point. And I guess we've talked about Aledo way up there. We talked a little bit about Ryan and Centennial and the rest of the district kind of being down, but it also leaves, 4 or 5 other teams for a chance to jump in there. And maybe some teams that we don't see that often make the postseason can make a run. Do you see any of these teams and which of them may step out to you?
The team I'm going to pick for the last playoff spot, and it's a little bit of a reach. So at the end of the year, Coach Poe over at Northwest may use me as part of his end of year thing, being disrespectful of the mouth, not believing in Northwest. I think a lot of people will pick Northwest to be the 4th team, but I'm going to pick Fort Worth Brewer. I think Brewer has been right there the last couple of years. Coach Jason Wheeler came from DeSoto. He understands, winning and how to develop talent over there. For me, DeCorey's Moment is one of the best returning players that we have in this district outside of Aledo. You got Mecky Elmore, the really talented running back, coming back, as well as Devin Dials. They did lose their quarterback of the future to Plano Senior High as a transfer. The coach left, and obviously when the coach leaves, the son leaves, and that's just part of the game as far as that goes. I think I've got them right there for the number 4 spot. I've got obviously Justin Northwest has built a good tradition over there. We talk about Eaton and Byron Nelson as the 6A Northwest ISD schools, but obviously the originator of Northwest ISD, Justin Northwest, has been there. Coach Bill Poe has been a fantastic coach, but they have to return. They got to replace just about everybody as well. The Colony is also a team I think that's going to be right there competing for a playoff spot. They've got Carson Cox, a very talented quarterback, coming back, as well as a really talented tight end, Ivan Blizniks. So kind of keep an eye on them. And you can never count out Azle Ward. Azle is one of those teams that always is competitive and always will be right there. They took some hard knocks last year. They've got Vance Guthrie, a really talented running back, coming back. And you can never count out Devin Doris. My official all too early picks. I've got Aledo number 1, Burleson Centennial number 2, Denton Ryan number 3, Fort Worth 4, Justin Northwest 5, the Colony 6, Azle 7, Saginaw 8, and 4, South Hills number 9.
Well, it'll be an exciting district, and let's hope Aledo doesn't get any bullying letters sent to them other than Fort Worth, because they look heads and tails above. But we'll talk 4-5A Division 1 next week.
I know you're excited to talk about all of the great teams in the Metroplex next week, like Killeen, Shoemaker.
We will talk about all those Metroplexers later.